Evening's meeting with an invocation from Ton Werman from the St. John Lutheran Church here in Pittsburgh.
Let us pray. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, creator of all things. For the well-being of all, you form people into community and establish government. Grant your grace upon every person within this city, and extend your blessing upon these, our civic leaders. Guide them, that they may be faithful models of leadership for all of us, humbly working together to distinguish what is appearance from what is real, what is nice from what is needful, what is popular from what is righteous. All for the common good and to your glory. For it is in your precious name that we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I just wanted to note that we do have Mayor Michael Gray on the phone with us this evening, which is why I'm the one running the meeting, and Chuck Munsell is sick this evening. So we'll begin with the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed?
Public input.
Or public input first. Fair point. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here for public input on any matter regarding the city? All right. If not, we'll close public input and move on to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Motion to approve if there are none.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to pass the consent agenda. Do a roll call vote.
Gray?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Ketterman?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. Begin with a public hearing this evening. The City of Pittsburgh advertised for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, October 24th, 2017 at 5:30 p.m. to receive public comment on the establishment of a Rural Housing Incentive District, or RHID, and the adoption of a plan for the development of housing and public facilities in such proposed district. Jay.
Commissioners, the city, as part of its incentive program, that it uses the Rural Housing Incentive District structure to be able to for residential housing development in Pittsburgh. We had one of the formalities is a public hearing for that, and that's what this particular hearing is. And as part of this, we also approve an ordinance that approves the development plan and a funding agreement that kind of sets the stage for what the requirements of this development are going to be for the developer. So that this is all one piece, the public hearing as well as the ordinance. So you have to open it for public hearing and
Sure. All right. So the public hearing to comment on the creation of the RHID is open. So if anyone wants to come forward and comment on that, now is the time to do so. Okay. Presume that that means there is none. So we'll close the public hearing.
And if you have any questions about what the development plan is, the requirements of all of this program, it has to be a very clear development plan for the development that's being funded through the Rural Housing Incentive District. We have some, it's a plot of land that's in the northeastern part of the city, just south of Atkinson. It's in your packet. I think you might have had an opportunity to take a look at where it's located. There'll be 20 homes that are low income that are eligible for the tax credits. They're going to start as soon as they can after we approve these agreements.
I got one question, Jay, on this. Is that road going to continue out the north to tie into Atkinson there?
It will. Okay. The city is actually going to pay for a brief section from the north of that plat where they're going to develop up to Atkinson. So there'll be a southern entrance and a northern entrance to that development.
questions? Okay. If not, I'll,
Move to approve.
right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Jay. All right, moving on to the agenda. Loan modification, item A, Pittsburg Highlands LP. Consider staff recommendation to modify the $300,000 loan granted to Pittsburg Highlands LP to remove the recourse language and to modify the terms of the loan agreement to reflect a 15-year period with monthly installments of $500 with the balance to be paid in full at the end of 15 years.
This actually is in front of you. You've already actually approved the loan or the loan. This is a slight modification to the loan. Some of the original language that was approved was boilerplate that didn't get modified, and so we're trying to modify it to reflect what the EDAC actually approved, and also this is a little bit different in that there's a requirement to remove what we normally put in here as recourse language for recourse to the individual developer personally for the loan that we're giving. In this particular funding arrangement, that's not allowable. We're comfortable removing that language because we're not going to be paying this until after the properties are built, and the properties themselves will be worth considerably more than the actual loan that we're giving out, and we're in first position, so we feel comfortable doing that. So that's what this was going on here. So if you have any questions about it, or we can answer that. We've got people here who can help if I don't have the answer. So.
If there's no questions, I move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Item B, plat, Pittsburg Highlands LLC. The Planning Commission / Board of Zoning Appeals will hold a meeting on October 23rd to review the final plat of the Pittsburg Highlands subdivision. Point Royale Development Incorporated, on behalf of Pittsburg Highlands LLC, has submitted a final plat for review of lots 5, 6, 17, and 18 of Riddell's second addition to the city of Pittsburgh. The area located north and south between Atkinson Avenue and East 31st Street, and east and west between Scotty Drive and Riddell Street. The proposed plat contains 22 lots that will allow for future single-family residential development of the property. The city's Director of Public Works will present a verbal recommendation from the Planning Commission / Board of Zoning Appeals. Cameron.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yesterday, the Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission met. They approved unanimously the final plat and a variance on the setbacks on the lots that on each end, so that they're double fronted, reducing the 30-foot setback to 15. There weren't any questions, and there was no objections from the audience.
Are there any questions?
Nothing from me.
Okay.
No
If not,
questions,
I
I
will-
move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item C, resolution number 1198. Consider approval of resolution number 1198, adopting and approving the proposed capital improvements program, or CIP, for the years 2018 through 2022.
Good evening,
Jamie.
Commissioners. Every fall, we generally have a 5-year capital improvements plan that we bring to you for adoption, official adoption. What it entails is the next year and then 4 years after that and beyond of all the known needs of infrastructure within the city. For 2018, we've got planned roughly $6.8 million in improvements, and it is balanced. What that means is we've got revenue streams that will match the estimated expenditures. For years 2019 through 2022, we've got planned expenditures, but we don't have it balanced, so to speak, where we don't have known revenue streams yet to fully make those come through. So each year, we look at everything again, and we see what's most important at that point in time, and then we go from there and build a new plan. This is the plan for 2018 and on out as it looks right now. What I'm asking is for your approval of Resolution 1198. Do any of you have any questions regarding this plan?
Looks good to me.
So,
Move to approve.
Second.
all right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the CIP. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, item D, J.C. Ballpark Turf Project. Consider staff recommendation to enter into a contract with Field Turf USA Incorporated in the amount of $222,942.49 for product and installation of turf on the field, in batting cages, the cool play system, replacement of nailer boards as needed, and an additional 4 maintenance visits at J.C. Ballpark.
Thank
Kim.
you. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for considering this project. As you know, it's been 10 years since we turfed J.C. Ballpark. When we first turfed it, we were seeing about 130 to 150 games a year at J.C. We are now averaging about 300 games a year at the ballpark. So definitely the turf has provided a great impact in our city. And we have come to a time where we're no longer able to just patch it and repair it and need to look at replacing it. And we knew going in that it was about a 8 to 10 year lifespan for the turf. So we had prepared for this day. Toby Book and I, Park Superintendent and I, made several visits to both AstroTurf and Field Turf fields in the area, in Fort Scott, in Kansas City, and Lawrence, and looked at both products and talked to both representatives. We then formed a 5-person committee to interview both AstroTurf and Field Turf, and the committee recommended to us to stick with Field Turf, which is what we currently have at J.C. Ballpark. So we're asking tonight to enter into a contract with Field Turf to re-turf J.C. Ballpark, which would begin immediately, and we would be prepared for the high school season.
Are there any questions?
If I could just add one comment. This probably doesn't sound like a big deal when we have $50 million. We're spending $222,000 on turf, which I know is a lot of money, but everybody knows the value of that park. But I think it's important to note that the city, before I got here, the city was in this process of banking money every year in order to pay for this. And I don't think we got all the way there, but we got pretty close. And it's kind of like if you would buy a car and you would put the money away before you needed the car, and so you had to pay less interest. I just want to make sure people understand that's very hard to do in a city that has as many needs as we have. Usually everything gets sucked up and spent every year. So I wanted to make sure that the finance staff and the park staff got acknowledged for being frugal. This is something we knew we were going to have to do, and it would have been extremely irresponsible to just come in and say, hey, we need to bond $250,000 because we didn't put any money away for this. So I appreciate all the effort they put in, and it's going to be nice to realize that because it is a great asset for the community, but the way it was paid for was worth mentioning, so I want to get on record for that. Thanks, everybody.
You know, you say most people know the value of this park. I'm not sure people do. That it's really an economic development issue in large part. And when you have these 300-plus games, that brings a lot of people to town to eat, drink, and be merry. And I think that plays into this whole program. So it behooves us to keep this up where it's in good shape. If there's no other comments, I move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Item E, J.C. Ballpark Turf Project Financing. Consider staff recommendation to enter into a contract with Clayton Holdings LLC of St. Louis, Missouri for $222,942.49 minus $70,000 down payment at a rate of 2.47 for 7 years, with annual payments being $23,752.54, beginning in May of 2018 for the J.C. Ballpark Field Turf Project. Kim?
Thank you. We did put out requests for proposals so we could get bids, hoping to get local bids, and we did receive 5 bids, 4 of which were local. Clayton Holdings does business as Commerce Bank locally, and they did come in as the low proposal for the project. As Mr. Hall pointed out, we've been putting away money every year for the J.C. Improvement project. And currently, we already put back about $20,000 a year for the project, which led us to a balance of the $70,000 that we're going to be using as a down payment for the project. So we are looking at financing about $153,000 of the project at a rate of 2.47 for 7 years. So bring us to our payments of about $23,752.54 for 7 years, which is pretty close to already what we were putting back for the project.
Any questions?
No questions. I move to approve.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item F, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board appointments. Appoint 2 members to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to fill the unexpired term of John Lair, effective immediately and ending on December 31st of 2018, and Todd Loveland, effective immediately and ending on December 31st of 2019.
You guys have the ballots?
I did.
Vote for,
Does Michael Gray?
Michael's gonna only vote to approve the final
Okay.
slate, because he's on the phone.
Mine are hiding. Gotcha.
Let me remind you, we can only elect one, a maximum of one, but it doesn't have to be one from out of town. So that's why those 2 at the top are designated. So please don't vote for both of those, but you don't have to vote for either one of those. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Sounds right to me. Over, even though our names are on the top. Better to put our name up there. Oh, sure.
Okay. So do I read the vote counts or just the 2 winners? Okay, all right. So the 2 selected for the 2 open positions are Jeremy Carpenter, I believe that's how you say that, and Stephanie Rissau.
Yeah, motion and, yeah.
I'll move to approve the appointment.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2 appointments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, special presentation, item A, Economic Development Quarterly Update. Director of Economic Development, Blake Benson, and Chief Strategy Officer for Pittsburg State University, Sean Nacarado, will present the quarterly update on economic development activities in Pittsburgh.
I can't believe I'm the first one that gets to say this, but good evening, Mr. President. may have to explain that to the youngsters in attendance tonight. The next in line to the mayor is the president of the board, so, President Johnson.
Not that president.
Yes. So, as your economic development partners, we are proud to join you tonight to give you a progress update on our activities for the third quarter of this year and also some year-to-date numbers as well. So, Sean, anything to add before we
Well, I
get started?
apologize. I never get bad advice from Jay Byers, but tonight he told me I had time to go to the restroom, and apparently I didn't. So apologies. I'm so pleased to be here with Blake, alongside Blake. Before we get started, I do want to point out and thank Sydney Anselmi, who collects the weekly reports that you guys receive. She's the one that makes sure that those get in. She keeps our ship afloat at University Strategic Initiatives, and she put together the report, but also the rest of the USI team and all the work they do. Blake?
Absolutely. Okay, we'll get right into it. First of all, a couple of weeks ago, we had the opportunity to break ground on a new facility for Apex Stages. This is roughly a $1 million project that will create 10 new jobs. $15 to $21 an hour is the wage range, so they're better paying jobs as well. To scale out a little bit, to show people where this is the Airport Industrial Park. Bottom left-hand corner is Martinez Produce. Just above that tree line is where the new Apex Stage facility will go. For those that aren't aware, Apex Stages produces the large concert stages. Their stages have been used for vice presidential debates in the past. That's a clear view of exactly where this will be. The intersection there in the lower left-hand corner is the corner of Lone Star Road and Atkinson Road, just to kind of orient you. And one more visual about this. Another reason we're extremely excited about this expansion project, not only is it a new facility, but you see how much it opens up the west side of the Airport Industrial Park. This really gave us an excuse, if you will, to run utilities to this side of the Airport Industrial Park, which then makes it much easier to develop the rest of it. When we take a prospect out there, when you're just looking at a field and saying, imagine the possibilities, and if you wanted to go here, we could have utilities run, to have it all equipped and ready to go makes it much more marketable of a site. So several good aspects to this project.
On October 11th, I had the opportunity to present at the Association of University Research Parks International Conference. It was actually held in Huntsville, Alabama, otherwise known as Rocket City. They did a lot of work with NASA. They have for some time. I guess we're not going anywhere in space now, so they're probably not doing as much work anymore. But I'm pleased to say that I am the only, as far as I know, I'm the only presenter from a Division II institution, Division II community. And they wanted to hear about what's going on in a community our size and how the city and the university are working together to produce Innovation Constellation, Future Research Park at Tyler, as well as Block 22. And I think we wanted to highlight this from the standpoint of the fact that we're already starting to, and we have been, even as we are breaking ground on Block 22, beginning national attention for the work that we're doing here and how we are setting a standard and a model for the entire not just the state of Kansas and not just our region, but the entire country for how a university and a city can work together to advance opportunity, economic growth, and development.
That looks like a dance move you got going on.
Yeah, I was doing the Macarena,
Yeah,
I think,
there
there.
you go. All right. One of the biggest projects that our community has seen in a while is the expansion of Eagle Picture Technologies. This one is just about complete. This is a project that added 15 new jobs on top of the 45 new jobs that Eagle Picture has created over the last 18 months or so. Average wage on these is $18 an hour, so a great project for our community. I spent the day with Eagle Picture today at their annual meeting looking at other growth opportunities, and certainly I would say the Pittsburg facility is well positioned to be in the running for those as well. So great company to have in our community and great things going on at Eagle Picture.
This isn't all about me going places and talking, but I did have the opportunity also a few weeks ago to present at the Financial Services Summit. I was asked to present on workforce development again because of the recognition. This was in Topeka, so this was a statewide conference focused on workforce development and how universities and cities can work together for workforce and training. Again, this presentation and this panel discussion was my portion was all about Block 22 and how that's going to, the vision for how that will revitalize downtown, as well as how that connects with the community, students, et cetera. Again, I think it's important for you all to know that the investment and the work and all that we've put in this together is paying off from the standpoint of others and other places seeing the kind of thing that we're doing here and wanting to replicate that, or wanting us to go and talk to them about how they might too be able to do something like what Pittsburgh is doing.
Another expansion that we brought you this year is the expansion of the NPC headquarters. It was necessitated by the acquisition of an additional 400 Wendy's locations. Obviously, NPC is known for the Pizza Hut brand. They're still the nation's largest Pizza Hut franchise owner, but a lot of people don't realize that with this new acquisition, they are also the nation's largest Wendy's franchise owner, with obviously most of the administrative work coming out of the office here in Pittsburgh. This is pretty well complete. This added 15 new jobs and is roughly a $500,000 investment by the company. So year to date on our expansions, with just the expansions that I've mentioned before, that represents a roughly $4.5 million investment in our community that has created 40 new jobs, $1.5 million in increased payroll, and 34,000 square feet of additional office and manufacturing space just in 2018. That's not counting two of the projects that I'll mention here in just a moment that started in late 2016. This is purely 2017 expansions.
We're also pleased to announce that this month we received a notification that we were awarded 40 spots worth $25,000 in Kansas Leadership Center core programming. This is an opportunity for us. One of the charges that we've had is with regard to small business training as well as leadership training for our community. We're going to, through Enterprise PSU, be able to allocate these spots so that we can expand the number of individuals in our community who have access to the level of training with the Kansas Leadership Center. I don't know how many of you are familiar with their programming, but it's very strong. Helps us to build that entrepreneurial community and that community wherein those individuals are getting that education wherein they can advance. In that same note, one of the contract, within our scope of contract is with regard to entrepreneurship workshops, things that we're doing to help encourage entrepreneurship. There's three things I wanted to highlight in the last quarter. One is that we held a U.S. Patent and Trademark Office presentation at KPRC, the Kansas Palmer Research Center, wherein over 25 members of our community attended, business owners and innovators. The Small Business Development Center at Pittsburg State University also hosted, along with the Chamber of Commerce, a cybersecurity workshop that a number of businesses attended. This obviously is a growing area of concern for many businesses and can be a hindrance to their growth if they don't have ample cybersecurity measures in place. And then finally, and this is a great thing wherein we're taking an entrepreneur who has done so well and helped to build our community, and Dr. Harvey Dean, who has written this book called The Hot Plan to talk about to commercialize and talk about the continuing education with regard to workplace culture. We have a collaborative agreement with Dr. Dean and Pittsco to commercialize this, and we're holding the first 8-week course of the Hot Plan to help local businesses who or individuals who wanted to learn from the lessons that Dr. Dean exhibits in the Hot Plan and to try to put those into their workplace environments. It's another example of the kind of workshop and training opportunities that we're offering to help from an operational standpoint for businesses in our community.
All right, another expansion is the Kendall Packaging expansion. This is, in terms of investment, the largest manufacturing expansion in Crawford County in the last 15 years. So we're proud that it's happened here recently. Roughly $9 million investment by Kendall Packaging, which is based in the Milwaukee area. Phase 1 will create 15 new jobs and triple their local footprint. It's such a big project that actually began in 2016 and will stretch into 2018. They should really complete everything by about January. They've scheduled their grand opening or their ribbon cutting for March, as many of the company officials want to come down and to make sure that the winter weather is broken. They've asked us to delay that until March, but obviously great things going on at Kendall Packaging. Very pleased to have them in our community.
I know many of you had the opportunity to attend our downtown annual meeting that we worked with the Downtown Advisory Board to host. I think you realize that several months ago, our team, the University Strategic Initiatives team, took over the downtown, helping to coordinate and staff the Downtown Advisory Board. Sydney Anselmi has been our point and really is the one that helped to organize this. And it was a great event, had a great turnout, and it was an opportunity for the downtown businesses to get together, continue to build that culture and that community in downtown, but also an opportunity for them to get a sneak peek, as you all did, at Block 22, and what that could mean for their businesses as we grow out that downtown. We're also, with regard to the Downtown Advisory Board, right now working on planning for the second Small Business Saturday event, and that is on the heels of last year's Small Business Saturday event, which was a major success. What's the date on that, Sid?
November 26th.
November 26th, Small Business Saturday. I've been noticing all the boxes coming into our office that say "Small Shop Small," so I think that's a great event, and it really helps for us when we're trying to support that downtown revitalization effort and that building of the downtown community and corridor.
And an interesting note, Small Business Saturday this year, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Pittsburgh will also be hosting the 5A State Football Championship. And so we'll have two teams from out of town that will bring a lot of fans, and obviously hope they take advantage of Small Business Saturday. Via Christi, it doesn't get as much press as it probably should. The Via Christi Health System, over the last 5 years, has invested over $50 million in their Pittsburgh facility. So this is a new joint effort with Mercy Health System that is located just east of the Via Christi campus. It's a new primary care clinic, roughly $2.5 million investment. You see there the 30 exam rooms. I believe there will be 4 to 5 primary care doctors that will staff this, and this should be completed by the end of this year.
Now, while many of you may think, as you see Tyson proposal here, that we're one of the finalists, and we're not. I think everybody knows that from the news releases. The reason why I wanted to highlight the Tyson proposal is not because we actually secured a Tyson plant here in Pittsburgh, but it was because of the way that we came together to present the proposal that we did. I think many of you have seen this proposal. It's hard for me to imagine there were many better proposals than what we managed to put together, especially in a 10-day time frame. When the Tyson plant location in Tonganoxie started to fall apart, we really came together quickly to present, I think, our best foot forward in a lot of ways. And the reason why this is important is because it was an example of how we came together through this new approach to economic development in our community as a team, as a united front. And we really impressed the Secretary of Ag, those folks. And we have a model for the way that we can now, via the Angelou economic study, look at target industries and come up with some kind of almost stock baseline. 80% of the proposals can be done. So it's now helping us to develop a strategy wherein we're going to look at those, identify those target industries where we're going to be working on attraction, and also to be able to work with the Kansas Department of Ag now because they see us as a player in value-added agricultural businesses with the food processing, whether it's Sugar Creek or the ones that we may be able to acquire in the future, that they are willing to work with us to connect us with consultants and site selectors who are in that industry. So while we were not one of the finalists, and I think the truth is that the primary reason why we were not one of the finalists is because of our location in the Neosho watershed and the challenges that presents from the standpoint of wastewater treatment. I think but for that we would have been. Now, Coffeyville has been selected as one of the 3 sites, and of course, we wish them the best of luck because it'd be great for Southeast Kansas to have that additional economic development. But I highlight that from the standpoint of how our team is working together and we're going to keep marching forward. Economic development marketing, I want to mention a couple of things about that. First is that I'm pleased to announce that as of this week, as of Monday, actually that's yesterday, we have now on our senior leadership team and University Strategic Initiatives added a Director of Strategic Communication, and that's Brett Dalton, who you may know formerly as the PSU Twitter guy. He was the social media director for the University Marketing Communication Office. We've now gotten him over into University Strategic Initiatives. He now becomes part of this broader team as we focus on how we build out not only Block 22, but all of the economic development approach. And that couples well with the city's addition of the Public Information Officer, Sarah Runyon, so that they can work together really on focusing on marketing of economic development efforts. And we had our first meeting last week to focus on exactly that. This week we're going to be doing a deep dive into how we come up with a strategic plan of implementation with regard to marketing on the target industry analysis. And that's because of this additional team members that we have really staffed up and to align well with the scope of work under the contract.
A couple of other projects on the year, new locations for Arvest Bank. That's the one going on South Rouse, close to Chatters in that area. That's scheduled for completion by first quarter of 2018. Signet Coffee Roasters, the city had the opportunity to be involved and help that project come to fruition. That new location will actually open next week, so very happy for the Posterics. On the year, we have conducted 27 what we call BRE visits. That's business retention and expansion visits. That's on-site visits with local employers, just asking how they're doing. Is there anything the city or community can do to help? And we've also made contacts with 27 owners of dilapidated properties, just to ask if there's anything the city can do to help not only rehab those, but get new businesses into those as well. A couple of other projects to tell you about. We're talking to the owners of the Comfort Inn and the Holiday Inn Express about conference space between the two hotels. That was a recommendation from Imagine Pittsburgh 2030. It's a big gap in our travel and tourism market. Likewise, with Imagine Pittsburgh 2030, our child care capacity issue. So we've gotten conversations started with the Family Resource Center about how we can expand that. Something else, our economic gardening sessions is something that is written into our contract, a second stage growth program. And then a new program that we launched just a couple of weeks ago, our Destination Pittsburgh program, which is something that the Chamber was doing a lot of separately in terms of helping recruit professionals to our community, doing community tours. Of course, we have the relocation information, but then also scheduling tours of local schools, local healthcare providers. We've really just brought that all into one place and packaged it. And so we're now met with Tiffany last week, as a matter of fact, to get her HR expertise, because we're really going to rely on the HR directors to let us know how we can help them recruit new professionals to the community. But that's something that we will be more active and engaged in helping local employers that are looking to bring people in from the outside be a bigger part of that and make it easier for them. So just some other activities on the year.
A quick Block 22 update focused specifically at the commercial space in the former, what most of you will remember as the Kroll space. This is in what is technically called the Commerce Building. That was the original name, but the Kroll space that you will remember, the drugstore. We are currently working with about 4 to 5 potential tenants. There won't be that many. We think there's going to be room for somewhere between 2 and 4. But we're working then to work down on their proposals, some of their business plans, looking at financials and projections. But in addition, we're going to begin more aggressively marketing. And this, by the end of this week or next week, you're going to probably see some additional marketing for that space. We have spaces between 600 and 6,500 square feet potential there. We really believe that there needs to be some food-related items in that space. And there obviously is a gamut on what that could be exactly. But food, specialty retail, etc. It's exciting to see, even without us being too aggressive in our marketing, we've already had this 4 to 5 that we're working with. And so we'll continue to do that. And we just really need to find what's going to be the best fit, not only for the Block 22 development, but also to help support the broader development in the downtown corridor and right there at 4th and Broadway. A couple of year-to-date numbers just to update you on some of the work that we're doing with small business and entrepreneurship and enterprise support. First is that our office and our team has done over 400 hours in year-to-date small business counseling to help small businesses in our community, within the Pittsburgh community. There are 45 businesses that we have served to date. 10 new business starts as of today. 2 business expansions that we've worked on, and over $300,000 in bank funding and investments for those. I also want to add something that could help us as we go forward, is that we've been in talks with Network Kansas, which is a statewide organization that administers the Entrepreneur Community, or e-Community program. We're in talks with them. We had actually been working toward an application for this year, which would give us access to additional capital. It's essentially the last capital that some of these small businesses may need to get started. We didn't end up getting this passed, but we have had some very positive conversations with them that lead us to believe that we will continue to work toward next year getting hopefully approved for e-community status, which would then start in January of 2019. It would be one more in our financing sort of quiver that we can help these small businesses as they're getting started, these new entrepreneurs. The last thing that I had that I wanted to introduce to the commission this evening is we've been working very hard to ensure that you all have the data and the information on the weekly report standpoint that you need. One of the things when I went to the Association University Research Parks Conference, had the opportunity to be in a town hall meeting with the National Site Selectors Guild, the leadership for that group. They were talking about a lot of the things that they focus on when they're helping large companies to try to find the best location. One of the things they really focused on was this notion of character of place, as well as, we think of quality of life. They talked about character of place. And I think that Pittsburgh has a great character of place. We are a community on the move, and that move right now, fortunately, is up as opposed to down, because for too long we probably were moving down. One of the things they talked about, though, was this notion of development of a business or a economic development scorecard to help you to assess. So I introduced this evening for the purposes of for the commission to start considering as we move into the discussions that we've been having with Darren Hall and Jay Byers with regard to the scope of the proposal for the economic development contract as we go forward, as well as how we will assess the performance of that contract. One thing that we might consider is an approach similar to this, wherein you're looking at economic development as 4 quadrants, wherein that you might be able, and the spacing's a little bit off on that. I think that something's up with the formatting. But the point of this is that what we want to be able to do is be able to fill an A grade on every one of those quadrants. Now, we may not be there yet. I think, though, that we as a team are really working toward that. You can see business, you could say that business expansion probably fits somewhere between business attraction and retention. But we are doing incredible work with startup entrepreneurship, innovation, and R&D. We're doing great work with business retention. Blake's work and the trust that the existing businesses put into him is very substantial. The work that we're doing in small business and enterprise support is great. That business attraction one is the elusive one. That's the one that's probably the most challenging, and everybody focuses on it because it's like you can land Moby Dick and you get 1,500 employees. The truth is that is important. We want to have an A in every one of those. But if you look at the companies that matter the most in our community today that form the bedrock, they all started in that lower left-hand quadrant. They were all startups in this community. And I think that we're doing a bang-up job in that regard. We're doing a bang-up job with regard to retaining those businesses once they start and supporting them as they go through their growth. So as we move forward into thinking about how when we're going to come forward with the next scope of contract, I just want to introduce some information that to you so you can be thinking about how we might start to conceptualize as we go forward. And the last thing I'd mention is just the sense of, I think all of you hopefully have read Dr. Davidson's latest micropolitan report that I think was released last week. And if that's not a picture of a community that's on the move economically, I don't know what is. And I think that what it demonstrates is that the work that you all have done, the work that you've empowered us to do, is working. This community is moving in the right direction. I think the latest I heard is our unemployment rate is now 4.1%. It dropped another 0.5%. So we are a community that is poised for substantial growth, and we're ready to do that, and we're ready to play whatever part that we can in that. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. Well said. Be happy to answer any questions.
I noticed in this report you haven't talked about La Quinta opening up, but I did notice driving by there today that Beauty Rest delivered all their mattresses today.
And it's obvious with its visible location, Commissioner, it is something that the community gets to see on a daily basis. It is a $7 million project, and I mentioned earlier that Kendall Packaging's not much more than that, and it's spanning almost 3 years. So we obviously are in regular communication with the owners of the La Quinta. They are to the point where they're talking to potential employees. They're making those kind of final preparations, zeroing in on an estimated completion date. So I know the community is ready to see it open, as are we, and they're getting closer.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is the expansion of Eagle Pitcher here in Pittsburgh, as opposed to their plant in Joplin, where they've lost employees. I think that speaks well for their feeling about their employees here in Pittsburgh and what we're doing here.
And again, I was with Eagle Pitcher officials earlier today, and they just reiterated how strong our workforce is in terms of work ethic, reliability, ability to catch on to new technologies. So I feel safe in saying that Eagle Pitcher is very happy with their facility here.
And I would say this is Eagle Pitcher is a great example of exactly what I was mentioning when I said that expansion kind of sets between attraction and retention. It's a great example of how that works together, because sometimes you can attract business by expanding existing businesses that may have in a neighboring place. And Eagle Pitcher is a great example of that. They're choosing here as opposed to there. So I think, Blake, great work, and I think kudos to you on that.
Obviously, we give the credit to the company.
Sure.
And appreciate
And
these companies
employees.
making their investment in Pittsburgh.
One thing I think you can add about the La Quinta, it's interesting, we knew they were approved in March of 2015. It's a private entity, they'll build it when they build it. But because of the timing, when you talk about the impact that anything has on your community, it's kind of hard to discern, because you have grocery stores investing at the same time, businesses growing at the same time. But convention and tourism is a very specific industry, and we all saw last week at the Economic Development Outlook Conference and in the Micropolitan Report that Sean's referring to, that it has grown by 22%, and it's no question that a big part of that was probably the casino and the associated hotel. So now that that's online and booked, and we already know where Holiday Inn and Comfort Inn and everybody else is coming in, it should be interesting when La Quinta does open. It will be probably very easy to tell what additional was generated as a result of La Quinta, because there's already talk of another hotel coming to Pittsburgh, and one thing we all know is there can only be so many hotels. At what point you've got all you can really handle. So it will give us the opportunity to look back and pretty much make a pretty good decision on what impact each of those hotels has had to some degree. There's a lot going on in there, but I do think they said they were within a couple of months, a month or two.
Yeah, they definitely hope to be open by the end of the year.
And so it is coming, but it will give us a chance to, the numbers are very important, because quite frankly, you don't want to be a madman in economic development, just go run around and do everything. You want to be strategic and make good decisions. And when people come to us and say, hey, we're thinking of another hotel, what do you think? Well, I'm saying yes to everything, because I am that madman running around promoting the town, but other people need to make decisions about the incentives that we're going to give and the type of job creation and economic growth we will see. And so I think this may work out in the end to be favorable for us to do some of that data-driven decision-making that we always say that we do, and it's useful.
I would say, though, I think at the last home football game at Pitt State on the Jumbotron, La Quinta had an ad up there, said they would be open November 20th, so
They did,
we'll see.
and I wish them luck. Hopefully they make it.
We all wish them luck.
They better get those beds made.
Thank you again for allowing us so many
Thank
times.
you all for your
Thank you,
work.
guys.
Don.
Great,
Thank you very
a lot
much.
of information there. Great
Appreciate
job,
the
guys.
information.
All right, non-agenda reports and requests.
The only thing I want to say is, I'm not sure we did it, but we want to congratulate and the two people that were appointed to our board, and more specifically, I want to just reach out to everybody that put their name in and tell people we have several boards. They're very active. We listen to what they say. Volunteerism is something that we realize runs a good part of this city and has been an effective part of why we are doing so well. And so thanks to everybody that put their name in. Tammy's always good at collecting the names of people that may not have an opening right now, but they want to be considered. So if you're in that position, please contact the city clerk. But thanks for everybody that always shows interest in helping us grow the city and be part of it, because the boards do a great job for us.
I'd like to echo that as well, that as a commissioner, I don't know that I realized before I got into the position how important those boards and commissions are, but like the stuff that we get, like none of us up here are writing policy, right? Like that's coming from those groups whose job it is to like look into those things that are run by like people living in the community. And so like they have a tremendous impact on the stuff that we're doing and that comes across our desk. So yeah, absolutely. Like that's a great way for people to get involved and like have an impact on what the community looks like and the direction that it takes. So spot on.
That's all I had.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Non-agenda reports request.
Are there any others?
I don't know. Was there any non-agenda reports request?
Was there supposed to be?
I don't know. We hadn't asked that yet.
Oh, I thought he did.
Yeah, you did.
That was the whole, yeah.
Sorry.
You were dozing.
I guess I'll look to my right, since we've got, does anybody have anything they want to add? I think the staff's good, if you guys are good.
I second the motion.
All right. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Good job, Jeremy.
Thanks, Michael.